loves. Welcome or welcome back to Chemistry with Kismet Tarot. I'm Monica, the Kismet Chemist. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Welcome to the family. I am honored to have you. If you are returning, welcome back. I have missed you. So I'm stumbling over my words just a little bit. But today's reading, we are going to be diving deep into your shadows, and in particular into the shadow of fears. I want to start with the collective rune. The collective rune, we have the rune of flight. And a lot of the times with fear, we can have one of the four responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. In this particular case, Spirit wants to talk about the things that we run from. And I actually channeled a message for the collective based on the flight rune. And it says, what you run from must now be faced bravely. And thus true north reveals herself in the liminal spaces and places between the breaths. I remember it was about a year ago. I was in the shower and I had a download and I knew I needed to write it down right away. So I called my husband in. I had him open my apps or my notes app on my phone. And it was just a very simple message. And it wasn't something that I wasn't aware of, but it said, fear is the opposite of love. Love is not an illusion, but fear creates the illusion that love does not exist. Fear is the illusion, creates more illusions in order to occlude itself or obscure itself from our awareness. It creates these illusions of unworthiness, of imposter syndrome, of unlovableness. It creates illusions that there is not enough, that we are not enough, that we are too much, that there is no safety, that there is no security in this life or within ourselves, within our lives. Fear creates the illusion that we can't find answers for ourselves. It creates the illusion that things are meaningless, that we are alone, that there is no connection and no purpose. And then it creates the illusion that we must keep going, keep running, even keep seeking or searching, always seeking and searching. And we find ourselves at the end of a very long journey, very tired, very defeated, because everything that we've been seeking and searching just seems elusive or illusionary. Fear is what creates all of these things. And oftentimes we don't realize that fear can take on masks such as intuition. Fear can fuel and drive us, and we can think it's our intuition. But fear doesn't know subtlety. It doesn't know soft. It doesn't know gentle. And it doesn't understand love. That's why we are working with the flight rune collectively, so that we can all realize that the nature of flight is not to run away, but to take flight and soar, to spread our wings and to feel the wind whipping through our hair or across our face and feel light and free, carefree, joyful. To realize that we all have wings of our own and the capability of expanding and stretching those wings and reaching great heights in our life. And the only peak, the only apex to that is what we determine is our apex point. So we have 4 piles. Each of the piles has a major arcana card, and we are working with the Necronomicon deck. And with that deck, each of the major arcana cards are designated for fear. Each of the runes atop the card is a symbol of the area of life in which this fear appears. And then we will get some guidance from tarot, from some oracle decks moving forward. I was advised or instructed not to reveal the keywords that are the actual fears themselves. Your guides, the Great Spirit, wanted you to look at the imagery and tap in. And on that, I'm also not going to identify the runes. If you have been on my channel a lot, you'll already know what they are. But this is about you learning to not run from it anymore, to stand and face it, and to bravely look face forward into the sky to see that the true north is where you're headed. So without further ado, I'm going to put on some meditation music. The timestamps will be in the description box below, and I will see you at your piles, my love. Hello, pile 1. If you chose the first card and rune, you chose the rune of harvest as well as the card sacrifice, which is the card 12. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this. It wants to, there we go. All right. So I'm actually going to read the excerpt from the book. And again, we're working with the Necronomicon, and this is based off of H.P. Lovecraft. But if you skip the intro, each of the major arcana in this deck represent a certain fear. So it says, the monstrosities were hailing something which had poked itself out of the nauseous aperture to seize the hellish fare proffered it. It was something quite ponderous, even as seen from my height, something yellowish and hairy, and endowed with a sort of nervous motion. It was as large, perhaps, as a good-sized hippopotamus, but very curiously shaped. It seemed to have no neck, but 5 separate shaggy heads springing in a row from a roughly cylindrical trunk. The first very small, the second good-sized, the third and fourth equal and largest of all, and the fifth rather small, though not so small as the first. Out of these heads darted curious rigid tentacles which seized ravenously on the excessively great quantities of unmentionable food placed before the aperture. And that is an excerpt from Under the Pyramids. It says, beneath the stony pyramid, a man hangs, suspended in night. The fear is of sacrificing to the wrong god. Are you sacrificing time, effort, your life to the wrong thing? Do you throw yourself into the role of victim, or do you demand too much from others? Do you make other people sacrifice themselves to you? Now, the first question was based off of the upright meaning. The last few were the reversed meaning. But all of these questions have a place here because we are working with the fear. I wanted to bring all the questions forward. And I'm actually going to go ahead and move them up. If you want a screenshot for journaling, for reflection, please feel free. So let's dive in, pile one.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Interesting. That was my Alexa responding. That is curious. Okay, we have the harvest rune along with the card of sacrifice. The harvest rune talks a lot about blessings, abundance, material gain. It talks about reaping what we have sown, but it also talks a lot about the work that we put in. When it looks like, Spirit, can you help me navigate through this? There's a lot of hesitancy that I feel. Let's adjust and talk about sacrifice first, because this is the fear itself is sacrifice, and the realm it presents itself to you is the harvest rune. So when we are thinking of the word sacrifice, a lot of the times we can seize up and fear can really take hold because we think of sacrifice as loss, as giving something up in order to gain something else. And a lot of this has origins or a source point in the biblical narrative, especially surrounding something like the devil. Now, this card talks about sacrificing to the wrong god. That's, in essence, the same concept. You know, we sacrifice our soul to the devil. And in doing that, in making that sacrifice, we find ourselves, damned to hell. And granted, that's not my belief. And I apologize if you have religious trauma. I truly understand that. But in another way, this is about recognition of what we view sacrifice as. Sometimes we can get into what's called self-sacrifice, and a self-sacrificial energy is not always necessarily a victim mentality so much as it is giving of ourselves so much that we become depleted. And when we do that, when we're continually self-sacrificing, whether it's our time, our energy, our money, our resources, even our spiritual gifts, our spiritual knowledge, we're continually giving out of ourselves. And we do this, and a lot of the times we can convince ourselves, well, I'm doing this from the goodness of my heart, or I'm doing this because I believe in it, and I believe that the world deserves it. And there's a purity behind the motive, but it's the action that we take that leaves us depleted, because without realizing, we're being fueled by a fear that if we don't give this, we aren't ... We aren't worthy. We aren't enough. We aren't fulfilling our destiny, fulfilling our purpose. And when we don't recognize or don't acknowledge and face that fear of not enough, of not being worthy, of unfulfillment, when we don't allow ourselves to acknowledge that that exists within us, then the harvest that we find ourselves reaping is significantly less than what we deserve, than what we've put forth. And we don't always understand the dissonance that occurs. Another way that this presents itself for some of us is in this belief, and I've seen this belief out in the spiritual community a lot, like a lot, that in order to attain enlightenment, in order to have our spiritual gifts, in order to live a pure life, in order to live an aligned life, in order to have this or that, we have to sacrifice. I think one of the worst things that I see out there is this notion that we have to sacrifice love in order to find true love. And when we sacrifice genuine, authentic love, not toxic love, not trauma bonded love, like genuine heart-centered love that has its own challenges, it has its own trials. When we sacrifice that because of some belief, either that we have or that we have accepted as our own, that there's something better out there, we're actually sacrificing a part of our heart for that. When we sacrifice a passion, a calling, or even something that sustains us because someone somewhere has said, if you give this up, you will gain this. And we find ourselves on the other end of a barren harvest, that reinforces the principle, the notion, the fear of not being enough, of not being worthy. Sacrifice itself is about realization of what it is that we desire and what it is that we are called to do in action in order to attain that. So the book in the upright meaning asks about, are you sacrificing your time, your energy, your resources to something that doesn't serve you? When we talk about that, it's asking you to identify what does and doesn't serve you, and allowing for outside influences to dictate and sway becomes it becomes something that puts you into an energy of needing others. It almost codependency, but it strips away the confidence. It strips away the courage. It strips away the truth of who you are, your own inner power. And so we look at sacrifice and then we build this fear that I'm going to have to give up things I love and people that I love in order to live the life that I desire, in order to have this or to have that. And I've found on my journey that that mentality, that ideation is more fueled in fear and hierarchy than anything else. And all it does is reinforce basic principles of not enough. The fear of sacrifice, whether it's you're going to be sacrificed, your love is going to be sacrificed, what you desire for your life is going to be sacrificed. It presents itself in the ways in which your blessings are coming in. And each and every one of us have our own set of blessings. And only we know what our blessings are. And only we determine what blessings actually look like. But when we run as far and as fast as we can from the things that we're afraid of because of any kind of conditioned belief system or because of a fear that we have to sacrifice, that's when we end up sacrificing what we're trying to gain. We sacrifice our blessings because we're not turning and we're not looking and we're not acknowledging. We're running. And pile one, if this resonates with you, I want you to know that I can only speak of what I know. And what I know is based upon experience. I know that in my life, this word, sacrifice, these ideas, these notions that I'm sharing with you, I know that they have impacted me. I know they still do. And that's the nature of fear. Fear doesn't just disappear. Just because we acknowledge it doesn't mean it goes away completely. It pops up. It comes back. It presents itself in a different way. But it's about us acknowledging that we have the strength and the courage and the awareness of this fear, and that we hold to its opposite in love, and we don't allow for the illusions to continue to be woven. So I'm actually being brought to the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And that book is such a beautiful book. It's great for creatives, but it holds such strong spiritual lessons as well. She talks about how she knows that she has a lot of fear, but she thinks of her fear like a passenger in a car. Fear can be there, can be along for the ride. And she acknowledges that it's along for the ride, but she's in the driver's seat, which means that she's going to determine how this car is going to be driven, what the destination is, and what the path is going to be to get there. And while fear may be there alongside her, she is still choosing to be in the driver's seat. When we have a fear of sacrifice, oftentimes when we get into that energy, into that fear, the illusion is that we're the ones in the driver's seat. And in reality, we're allowing the fear to take the wheel. We're allowing the fear to drive the vehicle. So let's take a look at this first card. This is the guidance on how we can it's seeing through the fear so that we can get back into the driver's seat. I had to double check how I phrased it for the intention. Okay. So we have the 10 of torches. And even though there are a lot of swords, this is actually the 10 of wands. And I like that a lot because even though it's the 10 of wands and the 10 of wands is about the weight on the back, you can see the swords in there. How can we see that? We can see that by taking a look at the payload, so to speak. It's taking a look at everything that we're carrying. When we feel as though we have to sacrifice ourselves to make others happy or to finally be able to receive from the universe, from spirit, from our ancestors, from our guides, even from the world as a whole. We can take this and get very, very literal with it. If we feel like we have to do everything in order to attain material gain, financial gain, in order to be able to put a roof over your house and, wow, put a roof over your head is what I meant to say, but maybe some of you were trying to roof your house or reshingle. But if we feel like we have to do all of that in order to be able to have that safety, have that security, have those material blessings, have those material luxuries even, if we feel like we have to sacrifice all of our time and all of our energy, there's no time for this and there's no time for that, we're in a sacrifice fear mode. So the best way to take a look at it is to realize that you have already come so far on your journey that you're able to actually look and perceive and witness the areas of your life that you've taken on more than what you should have to, that you need help in, and then allowing yourself the freedom to ask for help and releasing the feeling that in asking for help, it makes you a burden, because then you're just adding an additional sword onto your back. You're adding another weight onto your shoulders of saying, I'm a burden because I can't do it all myself. And so you sacrifice more so that you don't feel that way. But if we turn and we face and we look at what our life looks like right now, is someone saying that this is too much of you to ask of me? Or is that the perception that you have because you're afraid to let things fall from your shoulders, to not carry it all? The tens in this particular deck talk about the end of a cycle, the completion of this energy, which means that you are at a point now where you are ready to be at this completion. You are ready to let these things go. But it's always, they say, it's always darkest right before the dawn. It is always heaviest right before things lighten up. It is always that final step that feels the absolute most challenging, the absolute hardest, the absolute most painful. And it is that way because we have done this for so long, because we have carried this for so long, because we have been navigating this for so long. So let's get some guidance to bring some more love into the situation. We have the Five of Pentacles. Nothing is ever as hopeless as it seems. The Knight of Pentacles. Slowly but surely you're going places. And the Two of Pentacles. When life gets chaotic, find a way to get grounded and balanced. You have all pentacle energy here. All earthy energy, grounded energy. And this Five of Pentacles, I love so much. It says nothing is ever as hopeless as it seems, but it also shows a safe haven. And we can often think of the Five of Pentacles as being lost and lonely and cast out to the cold and being in lack. But this is saying this is the time to change that. It's time to look at the things that you have and realize that you're the one that creates your own safe haven, that the changes that you're capable of making, that asking for help, that giving back to yourself, that being courageous and being strong and trusting that you know what you're doing in this life, that you know what is right for you, and you know that the universe will never ask you to walk away from something or someone that you love. You know these things. And when you hold these things to be true, that's when you say, okay, there is always hope left. There is always truth. There is always love. I know I am heading in the right direction. I am going to give back to myself, because when I do that, I ground myself, I balance myself, I regulate myself, and I get myself back to exactly where I know it's right to be. And it does not mean that this is not a struggle. It does not mean that this is not a challenge. And it doesn't mean that you aren't still driving your car with fear in the passenger seat. It means that you are choosing to look at the whole of everything and realize that some of the things that you're carrying, you don't need to. You aren't meant to. And becomes a willing sacrifice to drop those, because when we carry things that we're not meant to, like someone else's perceptions and beliefs, then we're carrying around so much more weight than what we ever were intending or meant to. When we drop other people's beliefs and we ask ourselves, what is it that's right for me? What is it that I am giving myself to? What is it that gives back to me? We start shedding the weight. We start shedding the pain. We start taking back control over the car from fear. And in doing so, we start seeing just how far we've come, just how strong we truly are. So we're going to look at the Samhain Oracle. This is about navigating yourself back to the present moment. And then the sacred symbols are it's just something that your guides want you to be mindful of. There might be symbols on there that you might see out as synchronicities to help confirm this, or to help confirm that you are truly overcoming this fear. So first we have voices, the card 42. With a tug at the gut, feel them romance your very breath. Listen to the gentle flickering within your eyes, for this is where they guide. So this is about listening to the voice of your guides, listening to the voice of your ancestors, listening to the voice of your higher self, your inner self, your heart, your soul, listening to the blessings and the truth that comes in softly, it comes in subtly, it comes in with warmth and love and protection and safety and security. It comes in like a gentle breeze blowing against your skin. It doesn't come in roaring and saying, this is what you have to do, this is where you have to go, and this is what you must believe. But it says, hear me, trust me. I'm here out of love. I'm here to help you. But you are the one at the helm. You are the one in control. You are the one behind the wheel. So allow me to help guide you, but it is always your choice. Let's take a look at the symbol. Truth. I love this. I absolutely love this, because here you see this is saying the exact same thing that the channeled message is. What is your truth? You may see feathers. You may get a lot of bird messengers. I'm actually seeing a comb, like a hair comb, or like a quill, a writing quill, like a calligraphy pen. Those might be some of the things, some synchronicities that you have been seeing or that you will see in the future. But this is saying, what is your truth? Think about what truth means to you. Think about whether you are allowing another truth from someone else outside of yourself to fuel your fear or if you are holding to your inner truth. And what is your inner truth? Many voices can be raised, can be forceful, can even come off incredibly motivational while they are saying their truth. But what is yours? In the end, in the beginning, and in the middle, it is our truth, each and every one of us. It is our truth that determines our path. And that is why at times we feel like we're sacrificing, or we're afraid we're going to, because we're hearing someone else's truth and walking someone else's path rather than hearing that of our own. Okay, pile one, this is the message I have for you. I truly hope this helped. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you to your guides, my guides, and the Great Spirit for facilitating the connection between our energies, for bringing these messages so soft and loving forth, and for helping pile one to face their fears, to take the wheel, and to navigate forward with confidence, hope, and their own truth to guide them. Thank you. Pile one, if this resonated and you would like to support my channel, I would truly appreciate that. Some of the ways you can do that are by liking the video, commenting in the comment section below, subscribing to my channel. You can also check the description box for links to donate to my channel. These are all ways that you can support my channel. You don't have to, it's not expected. It's deeply appreciated. And yeah, that was about it. I don't know, like my brain just shut off. I'm going to leave you here, pile one. Thank you again for being here. I love you all so, so much. And I will see you at my next reading. Bye. Hello, pile two. If you chose the second card in Rune, this is your message about diving in and facing your fears. So the card that you chose, I can pick it up here. I'll do this. Is the card Solitude. We can get it to focus. There we go. And it is the card number 9. And you also chose the rune of the moon. Okay. So before we get into it, we are working with the Necronomicon tarot deck. And if you skip the intro, all of the major arcanas in this deck signify a specific fear. So I'm just going to read out of the book for the solitude, and then we'll get into the message. So it says, in the whisper of dark, okay, let's try again. In the whisperer in darkness, the solitary Henry W. Ackley is destroyed by aliens. Eventually, nothing is left of him but his face and hands as he is occupied by an alien entity. It is his isolation in the hills of Vermont that leaves him vulnerable to alien invasion. And the upright of this is, the fear is of communion with other people. Do you isolate yourself? Have you withdrawn too much from society? Do you have enough human contact in real life? And the reversed says, the fear is of solitude or being alone. Are you afraid of your own company? Will you do anything not to be alone? So I'm going to go ahead and move that up. And whether it is the upright or the reversed that speaks to you, if you want to screenshot and reflect on these questions or do some journaling on them, please feel free. But you also chose the moon rune stone. And this is signifying the area of your life that this fear impacts. As I was getting ready for this pile in particular, I actually had a song that I heard start playing in my head, and it was "We've Only Just Begun" by the Carpenters. And I listened to the song, and then I looked at the lyrics, and then I was called to diving into the meaning of the song itself. And how the song came about was a series of unforeseen circumstances where there was a bank that wanted to essentially create a commercial that was what we would call a music video. And they didn't want a jingle, but they had a specific vision that they wanted to bring to life, and they wanted to use music to do that. And the original person that was supposed to write and record the music ended up getting into a skiing accident, and I think they said he broke his arm, so he wasn't able to write music or play the piano, and it fell to someone else. And it was the Carpenters who recorded the song. And it's a very lighthearted song in essence, but it's about looking deeper into the lyrics and what they're really trying to say. The video itself was intended for, a married couple. They just kiss, they drive off into the sunset, and it's about, being there for new beginnings and new changes and big life events. But the song and the lyrics itself talk a lot about the beginning of a relationship and that hopeful optimism, and knowing that there is going to be hard times, there are going to be challenges, but there's still that optimism there because of the love that's there. The combination of the solitude with the moon runestone, as well as this song coming up, your guides and spirit want to talk about withdrawal. And I don't mean withdrawal from an addiction or a substance, though if it applies and this message resonates in that way, I'm not going to I don't want to negate anything. But this is about withdrawing into oneself. The moon rune, one of the energies and meanings of this rune stone is about our insecurities. It's about the places that we feel we have to hide in the darkness from others because we need to keep it safe, or because we're afraid of it not being accepted. It's too soft, it's too gentle, it's too vulnerable. And those are the places within us. Those are parts of our core essence, those soft, gentle, vulnerable places that people can take advantage of, that this world that we live in can feel too sharp-edged to allow out. And so we hide that away, and we become much like Henry Ackley, and we allow a different persona to take over. And we get to this point on the journey where we realize we've been so afraid to show our truest nature, our truest self, that when we look in the mirror, we don't recognize the person that we look at. And it's not that we don't recognize the facial features or the hair or anything like that. It's that when we look into our eyes, we don't recognize the person that we show the world, because it's so different than the person that we truly are. And authenticity is talked about a lot out in the world, in the spiritual community, in mainstream media, with motivational speakers, in self-help books. But what is the authentic self? We can swing from both ends of the spectrum of this fear with solitude. We can swing to being around people so often that we lose who we are because we're always going, always interacting, and always just being who our persona is, who we are on the outside, who everyone needs us to be, or who we think everyone needs us to be. And then we can overcorrect, like a car swerving out of control on a gravel road. We can overcorrect and find ourselves landing in the ditch on the opposite side and withdrawing and cutting people off and not having any sense of a connection. And when this pendulum of fear swings back and forth, no matter how slowly the pendulum swings or how rapidly back and forth, it feeds into the fear. I'm always going to be alone, or I'll never have a genuine connection, or I have to be out and be around everyone. I can't just be alone. I can't just be. And so we hide more and more of ourselves away. We shroud it in secrecy. And there are times where we can shroud it in secrecy from even ourselves until we feel like this life that we're living isn't ours and that hopeful optimism has been lost. But it wasn't about the fear that your guides brought this energy forth in the beginning. It was that reminder, times will get tough and that pendulum will swing and fear exists. It's present, but that doesn't mean that love isn't there. And it doesn't mean that there isn't that middle point of the pendulum. When a metronome goes, it only goes for a time, but it can be stopped, can be halted, just like a pendulum over time with airflow and gravity. That motion stops and there's that middle place. But if we fear that middle place, that place where we are comfortable with ourselves and being alone, but we also engage with others and engage with the world. If we fear that, then what we do is we're like a strong gust of wind blowing against the pendulum, which makes it continue to swing back and forth and back and forth. So let's take a look at the cards. This first one is one of the minor arcanas from this deck, and it is for helping you see through the fear. So we have the Four of Books, which is the Four of Swords. And I love that both of these cards have candlelight on them. With this energy, this is about allowing yourself to become more of an open book, while also realizing that you are the narrator, you are the author. And as such, that means that there is a time for you to step back, a time for you to sit by candlelight and write your story and explore the different parts of you. Sometimes we find parts of ourselves in the most unexpected places. Sometimes we discover something about ourselves when we're reading a book, or when we are watching a movie or a TV show. there's something within it that resonates with a deeper part of ourselves, and that part of ourself gets ignited and it comes to light and it comes to the surface and it comes forth for us so that we can see, so that we can understand. And you're not wrong for this fear. You're not wrong for the pendulum, and you're not wrong for the insecurity of letting your most authentic self out into the world. None of what you feel or experience is wrong. Your story is outside of its first draft, finally. And that means that when you write that first draft, it's all inspiration. It's all that we've only just begun energy. It's all that excitement, that first journey into spirituality, or that first day at your dream job, or the first day that you step foot onto a college campus after years of high school, where you're finally your own person and doing your own thing and choosing your own direction. That first step down the aisle when you're getting married, or that first kiss, first look, first twinkle in the eye of another person. That first draft of your story. When you finish it, you can feel so naive, because that's where the work starts. That's where you go back and you cull certain parts of the manuscript, cutting and removing, and then you go back and you check grammar and you check punctuation and you do the mechanical editing. And then you go back and you read the story and it's not what it was. And it can feel like a sacrifice has been made, like you're alone doing this editing, this change. When you get out of that first draft, each subsequent draft can feel more and more like a stack of books weighing you down. And it can make you want to hide that part of you that started the first draft away, because that part of you is starting to feel jaded and cynical, starting to withdraw, whether from the outside world, from yourself, or both. But your guides want you to think of every second of the day in a reframe, in an edited, we've only just begun energy. They want you to go back and look at who you were when you sat down and started doing what you were doing, or when you walked out the door with that hopeful optimism, and see yourself with all of the potential and all of the possibility before the hits came, before the insecurity, before the pain, before the struggle, before the hardship. See that moment and remember that that part of you is part of your core essence. So while, you have a lifetime's worth of experience under your belt, you don't have to hide away into the darkness that hopeful, optimistic part of you. You don't have to let that part of you live in solitude. You don't have to continue that. You can see that you hold within you the awareness, the intuition, and the understanding of how to harness that energy and see how each return and edit has been not intended to harden you, to cause withdrawal, to force you into solitude, or to make you run from yourself, but rather it has been so that when you move forward again, when you are done with this particular story and you're ready to start a new one entirely, you can go forth with the "we've only just begun" energy, and you will have the understanding and the wisdom from all that you have experienced before, and the next one will be easier. It will flow smoother because you have done it before, but you're back to the beginning. So you get the best of both worlds. But fear will tell you that you can't start over. Fear will tell you that you're naive to believe in the best. Fear will tell you that the world will hurt you. Fear will tell you that you are alone. Fear will tell you that you can't be alone because who you are is not acceptable, or that you're not capable of being in silence. So you have to engage with everything and everyone. Fear continues to swing the pendulum. And your guides want you to see that you are the best of both worlds, even with fear. So let's see these tarot cards. These are about bringing more love into your life right now. We have the Three of Cups, come together with your coven. The Nine of Pentacles, pause and savor the results of your success. And the Chariot, you'll never get anywhere if you keep standing still. This is absolutely beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. This is quite honestly the full encompassed energy of what your guides keep pushing with. We've only just begun. It's realizing that you can come together with others. And there is a girl in a wheelchair here. And in a big way, she could withdraw. She could feel like, I won't fit in with people who don't have this. I won't fit in with others who aren't like me. I'll be different. I won't be accepted. But here we have young and old, black and white, handicapped and not, all coming together, all communing together, all joyfully celebrating together in their own unique way as their own unique being. They have come together to form a connection, all authentic, genuine, and open. And then we go to the next one, and she's alone, enjoying relaxation time, enjoying time with herself, enjoying all of the work that she's done on herself, but enjoying who she is, not just because she has this wealth, but because she has gone through such a long journey. And when you allow yourself to see that you can be both, that's when you realize I'm the one that gets to decide where I go. I'm the one who is writing my own story. I am the author. I am the narrator. I determine the direction. So I can stand still or I can move forward, but it does not mean that I have to be that pendulum anymore. I can cut that cord now, for I've learned how to be both in communion with others while also going my own direction and doing my own thing. I have learned how to place boundaries. I have learned how to let go of the perception that I held that held me back. And now I'm riding my bike without training wheels. Now I know my path. Now I know how strong I am. And I know how excited I get to be at this next journey, this next book, this next story that I am writing. I don't have to feel like an alien in my life. I don't have to feel like I'm not myself, because I get to be my full self with and without being around other people. So this is representing a guidance to help you navigate into this present moment. So it says divination, number 14, take a breath, take it twice. Insightful reflections are guided by light. Whether you are a channeler, a divinator, a psychic, if you identify as those things or not, this is about you learning that you have a light within you that guides your way. You aren't guided by a light outside of yourself. The light is you. You are the light, and it is guiding you. And it has always guided you, even in the moments where it felt like darkness was closing in and suffocating you, and you were stuck, lost, a stranger to yourself. Even in those moments, you have had a light to guide you. Always, always, always within yourself. If you feel trapped in fear, trapped in the past, trapped in someone else's life, and you're not sure how to get out, remember that the light is within you. And so you can visualize it shining forth. You can utilize different divination tools. The pendulum is clearly coming up quite consistently with this. You may or may not want to but to learn the ways of pendulum divination, just like I'm doing right here. I'm using cards as conscious triggers, or you can throw sticks, leaves, stones, bones. You can scry with water, with sand, with fire. There are unlimited ways to divinate. You could even just create something of your own. Maybe that is what your next journey is. Creating a new divination method that you can utilize. And I want to say the word perfect, but there's a kind of hesitancy with perfect because I don't want to trigger anyone's perfectionism for some reason. But it's like you can hone it as a craft and then share it with others. In teaching your family, your friends, teaching the internet. I just heard it takes faith in yourself. It takes faith in yourself. And so if you feel this fear of not wanting to show your most authentic self because of whatever happened, then you hold yourself back. But remember, You are the one that has this capability, this power. You do. So let's get this final message. This is the sacred symbols, and this is just something you can be mindful of. Could be signs, synchronicities that you have been seeing or will see in the coming day. Oh my gosh. Days. We have knowledge with a book, and the card number 34, which reduces to a 7 with a chariot card. Books. I don't know if you guys are authors, if you have felt called to reading a certain book, or being a playwright for some reason just came through. But with knowledge, we can learn a lot from books, but knowledge only goes so far if we don't blend it with our own wisdom, with our own insight, with our own awareness and experience. This fear, this swinging of the pendulum between not wanting to be alone or wanting to only be alone, it's not unfounded, but it doesn't have to dictate anything for your story. Your fear is not holding a pen. It is not the author. You are. All right, pile 2. This has been incredible. This is the message I have for you. I want to say thank you so much for being here. I want to take this time to say thank you to your guides, my guides, and the Great Spirit for facilitating the connection between our energies, for helping this message to flow, the imagery, the metaphors, symbolism, the wisdom, and the love for pile 2. Thank you so much. All right, pile 2, if this resonated and you would like to support my channel, I would really, truly appreciate that. Some of the ways you can do that is by liking this video. You can comment in the comment section below. You can subscribe to the channel. And you can also check the description box for links to donate to my channel. Any and all of these are really amazing, incredible ways that you can show my channel some love and support. It helps with the algorithm to get the video out there so that it reaches all those it is meant to. And it is truly appreciated. I really love knowing when something hits, when it resonates, when it helps. All right, pile 2, I'm going to leave you here. I love you all. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you at my next reading. Bye. Hello, pile 3. If you chose the 3rd card in Rune, this is your message about facing your fears. So the card that you chose is, if I can pick it up here, it's the card 17, and it says science. And you also chose the rune of the scythe. So we're working with the Necronomicon deck. And if you skip the intro, with this deck, each of the major arcana cards represents a certain fear based off of H.P. Lovecraft's writing. So we're going to read the book and then I'll get into the message. So it says, science, already oppressive with its shocking revelations, will perhaps be the ultimate exterminator of our human species, if separate species we be. For its reserve of unguessed horrors could never be borne by mortal brains if loosed upon the world. From Facts Concerning the Late Arthur German and His Family. Herbert West is a brilliant scientist obsessed with bringing the dead back to life. In Herbert West, Reanimator, he succeeds in bringing people back from the dead, but they are monsters, and eventually one of them kills him. So the upright meaning of this is the fear is of science itself. Frankenstein, are you afraid of advances in science? What do you feel about the relationship between humans and nature? and the reversed is a fear of nature or of an over-reliance on science. Are you distrustful of nature? Does a walk in the countryside disgust or dismay you? I'm going to go ahead and move this up. And if you guys want to screenshot, reflect on the questions, or just do some journaling, please feel free. So you guys have the science card alongside the scythe rune. And collectively, we're working with the flight rune. So this is about what we run from and about recognition of the cycles of life, really. One of the things that I struggle with myself is finding the balance between modern medicine and homeopathic or holistic healing. I've found a lot along my journey that there are people who live in one camp or the other. They either say that holistic and homeopathic healing is, crackpot garbage ideas, and it's all woo-woo and it's all just fabricated. And that's why we have pharmaceuticals. That's why we have this. That's why we have that. And so they really shun homeopathic healing. And then there's the absolute extreme on the other side where there's limitless conspiracy theories about, the government and big pharmaceutical companies and modern medicine, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're poisoning us in this way and they're poisoning us in that way. And neither one of those extremes give any patience or openness to the other. Some of you may have seen my community post with my fingernails that I had done. And if you read that, my mom was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things she and I talked about when we were talking about, the surgery she is having and the possibility of it, turning into a different kind of surgery or this or that, she was talking about the packet that the Roger Maris Cancer Center gives out to their cancer patients. And she said, one of the things that I thought was so cool is they talk about adjunct therapy, and they talk about all of these different healing modalities. They talk about acupuncture and yoga and aromatherapy and essential oils. And she said, and then they suggest reiki healing. And she said, I couldn't help but think, well, I got that one set because I have you. And she seemed so excited about it and so astounded that would be included. And I've been there. I've been in that place where I've gone to the local walk-in because I had a sinus infection or what have you. And I talked to the doctor and they said, well, what are some of the things that you've done? And I tell them I do bioresonance frequencies and I do Reiki therapy. And of course, I still try over-the-counters like Benadryl and, Mucinex, things like that I know help my body. And I always find it astounding when there's a doctor who's like, oh, that's really great. I'm so glad you do that. We really suggest that. Because the time that we're living in, things are changing. Science and spirituality are bridging themselves to each other. They're finding a pathway to each other. And so if you're afraid that if you're afraid that if you take medication, for instance, it means that you are lowering your vibrations, or you are less spiritual, or if you are wary or hesitant or doubtful about reiki healing and energy healing practices and the benefit of breath work or yoga or, movement therapies, things like that. That's where this fear really, really rears its head, because this fear, alongside the scythe rune, it can come about in ways of an extreme fear of death and an over-reliance on medicine, or an extreme, what's the word, spirit? Resistance to modern medicine because of a spiritual practice. It can limit the mind. And science is an ever-changing, ever-evolving area of study. The whole nature of science is, we think about the scientific method, and the scientific method is built upon theories, hypotheses, ideas. And my personal truth, my spiritual truth, is every idea that pops into our head is divine inspiration. So every idea comes from the divine. Science came from the divine. Medicine came from the divine. It adapted and changed. And yeah, we can look at the financial market and say everything is so skewed one way or the other, and there's no equality. And so obviously the intention behind this thing or that thing from this company or that company has to be simply because of money. But I personally have a hard time believing that. I know someone who is a chemist who has done work with cancer treatment, medications, drugs, chemotherapy stuff. And chemotherapy is essentially poison. It's poison that you pour into your body, but it's poison that you pour into your body because it is designed as one of the strongest things to help combat and fight an already existent poison within your body. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And it's hard to wrap your head around that. But I personally have a hard time believing that spirit would ever allow something like that to come into existence if there wasn't a purposeful intent behind it that said, we can save this life, and this life can give awareness to this. They can give a voice to this. We can do this so that people become inspired to help. When we fear death, we become over-reliant on certain things, including the dead, including death itself, including the process of dying, all of that. We fear it. So if we understand it, if we know it, if we see it, if we interact with it, then we can conquer it, or then it won't sneak up on us. But death comes, when it's meant to come. And the scythe rune is one that is associated with death as a symbol and as a spirit, as an energy. It's often feared, but it's not meant to be feared. I'm actually being brought to the Harry Potter from Tales of Beedle the Bard and the three brothers, and how the three brothers built a bridge, and they were able to circumvent sure death by the river. And so death said, You got me. I didn't get you. You got me. So I'm going to give you one wish, whatever you wish. And there was the brother who wanted power who got the Elder Wand. And eventually he was killed because he had the Elder Wand. It made him a target. And so death claimed him, just as he knew he would, just as he had expected to with the river. And then there was the second brother whose great love of his life had passed away. And he was so fixated on that loss and unable to move forward that he asked for the resurrection stone. But when she was resurrected, she was stuck, bound, tormented, saddened because she wasn't able to continue her soul's journey. And he was tormented by her torment and what he had chosen, that he ended his life to be with her. And so death claimed him. And the third brother asked for the invisibility cloak, and he went about his life. And when he was of an old age and had lived a full life, he took the invisibility cloak off, he passed it down, and he walked hand in hand into his next life with death. He wasn't using the invisibility cloak to do harm or anything like that. He was using that so that he could continue the legacy of his name, of his love, and for his children. And so he was able to move beyond fearing death or becoming fixated on death. We have science in this world, and it has really genuinely helped us. I always see so many spiritual lessons in science, and I love science as a person. But when we fear science, or we become so over-reliant on science that we forget the nature and the power of the natural world, we become part of the great imbalance that occurs. So the area of your life that this applies to is the Scythe rune. It is in the realm of life and death. It is in the realm of what is good and what is bad. But that doesn't mean that you have to continue allowing this fear to dictate the choices and the decisions that you make. You can elevate, you can rise above, you can choose to become more open, choose to look at science as a scientist, get a curious mind. This fear that you have, get a curious mind and form a hypothesis and test it out. What do you find? Okay, now test it again. What are your findings? And a third time and a fourth time until you're satisfied that your hypothesis is either true or false, and you form a personal truth. And in doing so, you are able to exact a cutting away using the scythe of truths that others have put forth that you have accepted without question. So this is going to help you see the fear, and then we'll get further into the cards. This has been happening like on and off all day where I can't pick the cards up. We have the Three of Torches. I love this. It's choosing a path, choosing it, but you're at a point where you can see many sides. If you choose to see many sides, you can hold a light up to the different perspectives from within, showing yourself these different perspectives, allowing yourself to explore and dive into them, and determining which direction is right, which truth is your truth. me personally, and this is my truth, I am in no way, shape, or form saying that this is the truth that you are asked to. I want to be very clear because I want you guys to be as discerning with this as possible. Be as scientific with it. My truth is that my soul chose to incarnate into a day and an age where there were great advances in modern medicine, in science, so that I could learn to blend astronomy and astrology and witchcraft and healing modalities and all these different things to help myself navigate through chronic illness. My soul chose to come here during a day and an age where both spirituality and modern medicine would be incredibly active and very accepted in many realms, many places, so that I could utilize everything available to me in this world so that I can fulfill the purpose of my soul, so I can share my gifts with you all, so that I can be here doing this while still going through chronic illness and a genetic condition. That's my truth. And I've tested my hypothesis that this was a reasoning. And even though I still struggle with some of the results of confirmation or denial of certain truths within me, I still continue to work at keeping a curious mind and seeing a grander view. When we are in the throes of fear, or when we are running from our fear, we may very well be running from the very thing that could help us in any situation. So let's take a look at these. These are just some guidance to bring more love into the picture and help to illuminate your heart, to help you navigate through overcoming the fear. But it's important for me to mention my truth on that is that fear can be overcome, but it doesn't ever get extinguished. It's still there because it's teaching us, it's helping us understand more about ourselves, but it doesn't have to have control. So let's take a look. We have the Queen of Cups. Honoring your emotions is one of the highest forms of self-care. The Six of Swords. All aboard, witch. It's time to write a new chapter. You guys may have been drawn to another pile. And then the Empress. There is beauty to be found in every experience right here. When we are talking about our emotional body, fear is an emotion that can elicit illusions and irrational mentalities, but the mentalities are not the fear itself. The fear is the emotion, and the source of the fear actually, more often than not, can be found in some experience or interaction that has elicited a different kind of emotion, like guilt or shame or blame or victimization. So when we honor our emotions, when we say, you know what, this has made me feel guilty, and I'm going to honor that that guilt is there, and I'm going to ask myself, why does this make me feel guilty? What is it within that is bringing about the guilt? Is this a belief that I'm not good enough? Is it a belief that I am in the wrong? Is it a belief that I'm scapegoated? Is it a belief that I am hurting or harming another? And so I feel guilty. What is that source? What is it within you? What is that belief? Now, once you do that, you can say, is this true and accurate to myself? and you know yourself, if you know yourself to be a good person, if you look at your actions and your reactions and the ways in which you treat others and the ways in which you treat and talk to yourself, and you know without a doubt that you're a good person, is it true that your guilt is accurate? Is it true that you should feel shame, that you should feel blame, that you should feel these things, these negative emotions? Is it true to your nature? And if it is yes, then ask yourself, why is that true to me? And does that serve me? Does that help me? Does that make me feel good about myself and others? And if it isn't true, then say, what is the truth of me? And from there, what you're doing as you're allowing yourself not just to feel the emotions, but to acknowledge them and to get a curious mindset about them, you're engaging in a scientific interaction with yourself, but you're also spiritually honoring yourself, and you're moving forward and growing. And in doing so, you're helping yourself heal from these negative mindsets, heal from these negative mentalities, and really start redefining who you are and what your truth is and what you're here to do. And the more that you do this, the more you're able to see the beauty in the unfolding of everything in this life and see the beauty that is this modern world that we live in. And we take it for granted so often. We really do. But this world is so amazing. You can go outside and listen to the rustle of the leaves in the trees, and you can feel the energy of the trees, of the spiritual realm, of the stars and the planets and of the cosmos. And you can feel the power and purpose of everything in this world and how we all work together to maintain life, to give life, to create beauty. And so from that point, then every hardship has grown your strength. Every illness has taught you a lesson. Every pain has taught you or shown you what you can endure and overcome. Everything that you go through becomes this beautiful mosaic image of your entire life. And all of it is steps along this journey that we go through. We're going to take a look at this oracle card right here, and it represents a guidance or a path to navigate the present. So it says, All Hallows Eve, card number 1. Call upon the voices that stir your senses through the night. Cast an unforgiven howl as you stomp your might through the ground. Sometimes when we allow ourselves to just simply stop, even if all of this feels like, oh, I can do that, I can do that. Sometimes in order to do all of this, we have to stop and have a release. Stomp your feet, have your emotions. Cry, let the tears fall. Let these things out before you try to get scientific, because otherwise the emotions can become trapped. So for right now, one of the best things that your guides are suggesting is a release of some sort, whether you are angry, whether you are frustrated, whether you are sad, whether you are lost, if you are confused, even if you are just simply happy and joyful and you just wanted to check in and make sure that you're still overcoming your fears and make sure your fears are still exactly what you know them to be, and that's why you're here. let yourself laugh. Let yourself laugh and say, you know what? I've done this journey and I have overcome that. If you're not there yet, let yourself have the expression of the emotions. And then allow yourself to go through a healing journey, to go through the journey of death in a very metaphorical sense, so that you don't hold on to these things that are withering you away internally, so that you go back to this awareness of your strength and you can begin that chapter anew, because you know that you're doing the healing and that you've done the healing and that you are capable of shining a light on the proper path or the proper truth for you, not for me, not for the person sitting next to you, not for the person that you meet on the subway, not for anyone else, but for you. And that is something that does not need an explanation to the outside world. You do not need to explain your engagement with something, because it is for the best for you and for your soul's journey. So this right here is the sacred symbols, and this is something for you to be mindful of, whether it is a symbol, you might see it in a synchronicity coming up to this reading, and this is just confirmation. It could be something that you see afterwards. So we have divinity in the card 20, and this is a, let's see, seven-pointed star. Oh, I love that. It's also known as a fairy star, but this is a unique star in that it's got these, it's almost like it has four arms up and down. So as above, so below. You might be seeing unique stars. You might see Merkabas. You might be called to Merkaba meditations, anything like that. Anything with the number 7 may also repeat. If you watch tarot readings, you may see the Judgment card come up quite a bit. Anything else, Spirit? Sparkles like glitter in the air. You might notice them more often. Those are fairy sparkles is what I'm being told. So these are things that are there to help you remember that you are divine and that divinity flows through you and that you have the ability to discern what is right for you. And you have the option of combining many different things into one. You can combine many different elements, many different lines and directions all into one. Just like this is a star that combines many things into one. You have the ability to do that. It is within you. All right, pile 3, this is the message that I have for you. I want to take this time to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you to your guides, my guides, and the Great Spirit for facilitating the connection between our energies, allowing these messages to flow, allowing them out into the collective to reach all those they are meant for. And thank you as well for helping pile 3 to free themselves from any and every limitation or hesitation that they may be experiencing, so that they can fully embrace all of what this world has to offer to them. Thank you. All right, pile 3, if this resonated and you would like to support my channel, I would truly appreciate that. Some of the ways that you can do that are liking this video, commenting in the comment section below. You can also subscribe to my channel. And if you go and check out the description box, there are also links to donate to my channel. Any and all of these are really great methods to support my channel. They really do help. They help get the video out to more people, help YouTube with the algorithm to know that this is something that is meant to be supported. And it really does mean a lot to me. So without further ado, I'm going to leave you here. I love you all so much. And thank you again. I will see you at my next reading. Bye. Hello, pile 4. If you chose the 4th card and the 4th rune, this is your message about diving in deep into your shadow and facing your fears. So the card that you chose is a card number 2. I'm going to move it up so you guys can actually see it now. And it says imagination. And if you skip the intro, we are working with the Necronomicon deck. And this deck in particular, all of the major arcana cards represent a certain type of fear. So we're going to read out of the book. It says, children will always be afraid of the dark, and men with minds sensitive to hereditary impulse will always tremble at the thought of the hidden and fathomless worlds of strange life, which may pulsate in the gulfs beyond the stars or press hideously upon our own globe in unholy dimensions which only the dead and moonstruck can glimpse. And that is from the essay Supernatural Horror in Literature. And then another one, it says, and where Nyarlathotep, I don't know how to say it, went, rest vanished, for the small hours were rent with the screams of nightmare. And that is from Nyarlathotep, maybe, is how you say it. It says, by harnessing his imagination, H.P. Lovecraft was able to contain his madness. The upright meaning of this card is, does your imagination overwhelm you? Are you drawn into dark inner worlds? Have you lost the ability to differentiate between the real and the imagined? And reversed, it says, what is the source of your nightmares? Are you prey to demons? Do the visions come from within or without? So I'm going to move this up. Focus on the page. If you want to screenshot that and reflect on the questions or journal, anything like that, please feel free. So you guys have imagination and the romance rune. Okay. So this fear can take on several different implications. The area of the life that it applies to is indicated by the romance rune. The romance rune isn't always about romance or love in a romantic sense. Sometimes it's about creation, creativity. Sometimes it is about bringing different pieces together into a wholeness, because it is the Trinity symbol. So, okay. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this, but I understand. So we're going to talk first about romantic love and how this imagination as a fear can play in. This is common for people with betrayal trauma. And this is something that I myself have experienced. And when you go through betrayal trauma in any way, shape, or form, but especially when it comes to in the realm of love and romantic connections, it can hardwire your brain essentially to doubt yourself, but also to look more deeply into things than what is actually going on. And it can present in either way. And that is where this fear really, I kind of want to say it runs rampant, but it's almost like the fear gets a chance to play with your mind, because fear creates illusions. And when this is the fear, you can actually end up cutting off your own creative genius, because you're afraid to allow your mind to wander into imaginative realms and creative realms, because in those realms exists the pains and the anguishes that go hand in hand with betrayal. And so it becomes this blurred line of, can I do this? Should I do this? Or am I just going to create more havoc in my life? At the same time, when we go through things like betrayal, or we go through any kind of relationship trauma in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion, any kind of relationship trauma is betrayal. Because when we're in a loving relationship, it shouldn't be painful to love the person. There shouldn't be situations where that person harms you emotionally or mentally. And I don't mean like, them not being aware of a trigger and them triggering you. I mean like, infidelity or any kind of manipulation or controlling, anything like that. Those things, especially when it comes to manipulation, though all of those things are labeled one thing, but they come down to a sense of betrayal, because you trust the person, you love the person, you give them your heart, and they don't hold it sacred as they should. And so when you go through those things, a lot of the times it can become difficult to question reality, or not difficult to question reality. It can become difficult to understand what is real and what is not, because what you believe to be real suddenly isn't. And it shifts a paradigm, it shifts a perspective. And then imagination becomes harder and harder to engage with. So our creative impulses become dulled and silenced. And this card also talks about how H.P. Lovecraft had a touch of madness, but he took that madness and he used it to create fantasy worlds and to write these stories. And as macabre and dark as they are, it was a means of him expelling from himself the dreams and visions and madness. And so he was able to find success and live his life. Sometimes we're asked to see that there is more than what our eyes can see. When it comes to betrayal or relationship trauma, we can begin to imagine, when we are in a new connection, that because circumstances are similar, it's going to be the same thing. And when we do that, we weave more illusions for ourselves. That fear, like I said, gets to run rampant or gets to play in our mind, and fear is creating the illusions. Sometimes it comes down to us having to say, okay, what is real and what is the illusion? What is real and what is my fear of what could occur? And is this fear based off of this person, this situation, or does it have a basis in a past situation, a past hurt, a past betrayal? And those are things that are incredibly difficult to do in the midst of the moment, in the midst of the situation. And so my personal suggestion, because I know what this is like, is give yourself grace and give yourself forgiveness and give yourself the freedom to be vulnerable and to be intimate. And I don't mean intimate in a sexual way. I mean intimate in a way in which you open up and you say, this is what I've experienced and this is what my fear is. And when you do that, you're helping yourself realize that the things that have occurred in the past were not an illusion. They were not fabricated. They did happen, but that those things do exist within the past. And so their presence in your present reality is an illusion. And in order to break an illusion, we have to voice what is true. And those are difficult things to do. Another way that this presents itself, because this is representative of the High Priestess card, is in being able to differentiate what is true intuitively and allowing yourself to realize that an intuitive awareness, a psychic awareness, is not mere imagination or illusion. And in fact, the illusion is that there are coincidences, that things are just happenstance, or that you didn't know what you know you knew. In this sense, this is less about romance and more about faith and belief and perceptions. Imagination it's crucial to human existence, in my opinion, but in the human brain, it gives us an outlet and a relief and a release, and it allows us to dream and to daydream and to manifest. But it also exists within the Akashic field, and that means that our imaginations do truly weave worlds into existence, whether we live in those worlds or not. So we can keep creating worlds in which the past repeats itself, and then we find ourselves entangled in these different worlds. Or we can instead choose to start weaving better things into existence by seeing that we have that power and that is what we're tapped into. And I know I myself, having grown up in a Christian Lutheran household, I was taught that psychic gifts, mediumship, channeling, these things that are genuinely in the New Testament Bible, they're called gifts of the Spirit, that these things are bad, are evil, even though the New Testament teaches that we all have different gifts of the Spirit. We all have different spiritual gifts. No one is better than the other. But over time, and through a lot of editing from the fallibility of man, those passages get qualified with certain perceptions so that it narrows it and limits it. And then the Old Testament both uplifts it as well as condemns it. And you grow up, if you are like me, you grow up in that situation where these things are bad, they're wrong. And you aren't loved by divinity, by the quote unquote God from that faith. I can't speak to other faiths, but that is my experience with Christianity. So this fear can present in such a wide range of ways that it really does have a stronghold when it hits us. We can fear our gifts. We can fear the outside world because of our gifts. We can fear the past repeating itself. We can fear weaving things into reality that we don't wish to weave into reality. And the more power that we give to the fear, the more power it has. And when we don't recognize that it is fear that's running the show, because we think, well, this is just it's PTSD, or it is, it's just my imagination, or this is because I did X, Y, and Z, or because of this, or because of that. And we continually push it onto anything other than saying, this is a fear. We break apart the parts of ourselves that have the confidence to stand firm in our truth. We break apart our own psyches. We break apart our hearts. And we break apart our connections because fear grips and holds so tightly. And when we do that, and we start fearing our imagination instead of realizing that the fear that we have is in our own knowing, is in our own worthiness, is in our own gifts and our abilities, our own creativity. When we do that, we actually start repressing all of those parts of us, while at the same time yearning and longing for those parts. And it can unfold in many, many ways. The one example that is coming to mind that Spirit is utilizing, I kind of feel like a sacrificial lamb with this pile, but that's okay. We can sacrifice. We can give up that part of us or repress that part of us until we allow someone else to dictate what truth is and what our imagination is, until we don't believe a thought that we have. We don't believe a knowing that we have. We don't even believe what we see with our own physical eyes, because we don't know that our imagination is not meant to be feared. We don't understand it because we've been through it. For me, the reason why I said I feel like a sacrificial lamb is because one of the ways that this has unfolded in my life is that in my first marriage with my ex-husband, there was so much gaslighting that occurred that I had no perspective of what was real and what wasn't. And going through a spiritual awakening and channeling spirits during that, along with the subsequent threats to my life from him, left me in a state of internal chaos. And I would not allow myself imagination. I was an avid writer at that time. I loved it so much, but I did not trust my own mind. And even now, I go through triggers. And when I am in a highly triggered state, I become incredibly rational, incredibly analytical, and I need there to be a burden of proof that will extinguish any and every possible potential doubt that could pop up before I can make a move. It puts me into freeze mode. It's incredibly difficult to navigate through. If this is something that resonates with you, I do want to tell you I am going to therapy for it. And I may be quite early in my therapy journey, but I have a lot of high hopes. And if you can find a very good therapist, I know it's incredibly difficult. I know, because I've been in and out of therapy trying to find the right one. since I was 6 years old. But there are those out there. This is one of the worst fears to have. And I don't mean that to make you feel bad, pile 4, because this is one of mine. It genuinely is. And that's why I have so much empathy for you, because I know what this fear does. I know how much it robs you. And it's internal. It's so internal. Even though it may have an external spark or an external source of impact or of just a source, an external source, like mine with my ex-husband, it becomes utterly internal and incredibly difficult to identify. And this is a kind of fear that really wraps itself around things like creativity, so that you're operating out of fear and you don't fully understand or realize that that is your operational mode. So let's take a look at this card. This card right here represents how you can bring that into light. So we have the 6 of Pentacles here, and I want you guys to really see this. Bringing this fear to light means, in a big way, it's about you reaching a hand out to yourself, reaching a hand out to another version of you, another form of you. I want to see if I can there we go. Or reaching out to the past version of you and having a talk. There are a multitude of meditations out there. If you guys want me to do like a guided meditation, like a recorded guided meditation, or if you would like I could do a written journal meditation with some question prompts so that you can guide yourself through it. And that way you are more actively engaging with your own mind and your imagination to help you do this. Please let me know. I would be more than happy to do that. With this meditation, it's about going back and meeting a different version of yourself. But what this card is saying, what the energy and your guides are saying, is it's about you reaching back and giving life back, reaching back and giving direction to. They say you can't change the past, and that's true. You can't get in a DeLorean and travel back in time, or get in a phone booth and travel through time. We can't do that in the physical sense. But on the Akashic field, because we're working with the imagination, on the Akashic field, we can do that, and we can travel back, and we can sit down with ourselves, and we can have a talk with ourselves. We can gift ourselves energetically with something that, when you come out of the meditation, will be present within your energy field, will be ingrained within your mind. And with that comes more relief from what has transpired. And this is a common thing with like inner child healing or timeline healing. But that is how you can really help yourself to see how this fear is unfolding, how it is playing out in your life in the present moment, and how you can actually utilize your imagination to heal you. And in doing so, you break down the fear-based illusion, and you help pull that imagination out of that repression. So let's take a look at the tarot cards down here. These are just helping bring some more love into it. So you have the 8 of Cups. If your life feels stale, explore some new scenery. I love that. The Empress. There is beauty to be found in every experience. And then the Lovers. Will you or won't you? The choice is yours. Okay. So with this, bringing more love into it, the Eight of Cups, it's often depicted by somebody walking away from a bunch of cups that they have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy accruing. And they are choosing to walk away, to go on a new journey, because at the end of that journey is the Nine of Cups. It's the wish fulfillment card. But here, this is about you seeing, okay, I have all of this and I have this here, but let me explore something different. It's just like we were talking about creating new forms of your fears playing out so that they have a positive benefit, so they have a better solution, a better result. And when you do that, you start really being able to tap more into the beauty and the creativity of the world, but also of yourself and of your imagination. You start being able to tap deeper and deeper into your own energetic connection to the Akashic realms. And with the Lovers card, it gives you this power of choice. I choose to believe this. I choose to believe myself. I choose to believe my guides. I choose to believe my intuition. I choose to believe in my creativity. I choose to believe in love. I choose to see this as a new experience, as a new opportunity. I choose to bring all of the pieces that have been pulled apart back together. I choose this unification so that I can move forward with greater love in my heart. And when we make that choice, then we start making those shifts. And yes, at times when we do that, the fear gets stronger. The fear gets more bold. But the bolder the fear is, the more outrageous the illusion it weaves, and the more you are able to see through the illusion, and the more you're able to pull yourself back to the truth, and you are still able to be that creative, beautiful person that you are. So we're going to take a look at this oracle card, and this card represents helping some guidance to help you navigate back to the present moment. I love this. We have reflection 32. Be wary of things you believe to see with eyes wide shut, for they are mirrors of the mad and truths only spoken with a bleeding tongue. Thank you so much, Spirit and Spirit Guides, because right here is a perfect example. What this talks about, be wary of things you believe to see with eyes wide shut. When you are in the midst of the experiences of something or someone clouding what you know to be true, you can take time to reflect, to look, to perceive, to observe. Is what they're saying true? And if it is, why do I have such a strong reaction against it? Is this what I'm actually seeing, or am I seeing this? Because what you know is within you, and your inner truth will always try to come out. When I was telling you about me shoving my intuition down and shoving my inspiration and my creativity and my imagination down and not writing and not engaging in that, getting hyper analytical and hyper rational, I was waking up unknowingly in the middle of the night and writing poems. And I looked at the notebook that I had years later, years down the line. I looked at them and I used them as a reflection. I looked at them and I read the words and I thought about the time frame that they were written. And I could see how the most authentic part of myself, the core essence of myself, was reaching out through those words to try and reach me, to try and snap me out of it, to try and wake me up or open my eyes. But I was so ingrained in the fear that I wasn't able to see it. Our truest self will come through powerfully but it doesn't always break through our conscious awareness. So when we are called to reflect, to bring us back to the present moment, it's reflecting on, where am I? Who am I with? What is the situation? Is this accurate, or is this something that I am seeing because the past is playing in the present? And when we do that, we're able to shift ourselves back to the present moment. And it takes time and it takes practice. All right, so this is the sacred symbols, and this is just some of the synchronicities you may have been seeing coming up to this reading, or symbols or signs that you may see moving forward, things to be mindful of. So we have safe travel and the card number 30. So you might be seeing arrows. You might see a bow and arrow. This is the crossroads rune. So I'm seeing railroad crossing, four-way stops where everybody is stopped and everybody's trying to wave each other through. That's a really randomly specific one. But I literally just, like, Spirit showed me like 4 cars and they're all going like this. And it just becomes something that's quite funny because it's just very out of the norm. You might, something about ships, like a boat, cruise ships, or something about the Titanic. You may have just watched the Titanic. This may, let's see, what else, Spirit? Hecate may come up as a goddess. Compasses. See, and I thought that with this here, compasses, longitude, latitude, things like that. Those are all, wow, for you guys, just so many just came flooding through. You may also see 5s and 3s, in particular 5s and 3s. Anything else? A flashing green arrow. Interesting. Okay. So those are all your guide's ways. Any and all of those, if you see those or if you have seen those are your guide's ways of helping you come back to the present, helping you shift this energy, shift out of this fear. So they can be a little confusing at times, it feels like, but they're there for a reason. And I'm being brought back to this Empress card where it says there is beauty to be found in every experience. They're there for you to discover the beauty of the experience based off of your own mind, your own imagination, your own mental fortitude and mental workings. It's for you to start bringing those disparate pieces back together, because the safe travel has arrows pointing all away from each other. But you have the romance rune, which is the Trinity, or the triquetra. So it is 3 in 1. So it's about bringing all these things back together and coming back to that center point within the compass, and coming back to your own center, coming back to your own truth, getting a grip back on yourself, not on reality, but on yourself. And I just saw 3344. Curious. So, all right, pile 4. I love you guys, first of all. I'm sending you guys like a huge energetic hug. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you to your guides, my guides, and the Great Spirit for facilitating the connection between these energies, for flowing these loving, profound, and incredibly helpful messages through today. The tangibility of this message astounds me, and I'm honored to have brought it through. Thank you so much, Spirit. Thank you. Pile 4. I truly, truly hope this helped. I am right there with you guys on this one, and I am here for you. If this did resonate and you would like to support my channel, you can do that in a multitude of ways. Some of those include liking this video, commenting in the comment section below, subscribing to my channel. And if you go to the description box, there are links to donate to my channel as well. Any and all of these really do help my channel grow. They help my channel stay within the algorithm. They help these messages reach those they are meant to. And they are so appreciated. They really are. And so are you. So, all right, pile 4. Thank you again. I love you guys so much. I will see you at my next reading. Bye.